Hello, I'm Loren Sederstrom. I'm the host of the All Around Grant Show. Today we have a very packed show for you today. We're going to talk about everything from blueberries to Erin Brockovich to tornado sirens to toxic waste sites. And I do have a couple guests with me today. Today my guests are Diane Longry, former mayor of Maplewood, and Larry Lanou, member of the GRP. So today we're going to start right away. If control room is with us, we're going to start. I went to Blueberry Fields, which is just barely outside of Grant, and keep on the agricultural theme because that's what agriculture and horses, what Grant is all about. So I made a visit there, and if we could, are we ready to roll that? We can roll the interview for Blueberry Fields. Hello, today we're at the Blueberry Fields of Stillwater, and I'm here with Bev O'Connor. How you doing, Bev?
Hello.
And we're going to learn about blueberries. They have a beautiful place, and she's going to tell us about her You Pick Blueberry farm. And first of all, Bev, tell us how you got into this. How did this start?
Well, my husband Mike and I had a dream of a You Pick Blueberry farm when we were living in Cincinnati in the early 90s. And we have held that dream until we moved here in 2001, and we purchased a 20-acre piece of land in Stillwater Township. And we started our soil prep and getting the business ready in 2005 and put our first bushes in the ground in 2006.
What type of varieties have you planted?
We have 7 varieties that have been developed by the University of Minnesota specifically for this climate. They're considered half-highs. The wild ones are the low bush, and the southern varieties are the high bush. So the University of Minnesota had a breeding program and developed half-highs, which are about 3 to 4 feet tall, and thrive in this Minnesota climate.
And what are the specific different types you have?
We have North Blue, which has the biggest berries, Superior, which is one of the newest releases from the University of Minnesota, and it's doing great on our farm. Northland, Chippewa, Polaris, I have to stop and think, and Patriot, Chippewa and Patriot.
Okay, so there's quite a variety, and they taste a little bit different?
Well, first of all, blueberries, when you pick them off of a bush in the sun on a warm afternoon, they have a flavor that is almost hard to describe. They are so delicious. There is no contrast between a berry that you pick off of a bush and those that you pick up in the grocery store. They're delicious. And yes, each variety has its own flavor, its own characteristics, its own size, its own growth pattern.
And how many years does it take till these mature, these bushes, and how long do they last?
The bushes mature at 7 to 10 years, and they will continue to grow bigger even after that. And the longevity is projected at 25 to 30 years. However, some farms are at 30 years and they're still increasing production.
Wow. I never realized that they lasted that long.
Mm-hmm.
Now, kind of tell me how it works if when I come in here, I pay my fee, obviously, and I see you have all those buckets over there. Would you explain that to me?
Yes, we love to teach people how to pick blueberries because many people haven't done it or else they've picked them in the wild. So when you come to Blueberry Fields of Stillwater, we will give you 2 buckets, one for picking your berries and one for sitting on to make it very easy. You can sit by a bush and I teach you how to just roll those berries in your hands and put them in the buckets. It's really quite easy, and we show you how to do it, and then you take home your berries.
Well, that's really neat. And I take this as pretty much a family orientated, so you can the whole family can come out and pick blueberries.
Our goal with this farm is to have a place where families with young children, older children, singles, older people, multi-generations can come and have an activity together where they can pick fresh berries, have some conversations, but also to just be able to enjoy the space. It's a wildlife sanctuary. We have geese, ducks, loons, lots of wildlife, and it's an opportunity for people to slow down, come out and enjoy a blueberry field. we're setting it up so that it can be a bit of a refreshment to pick blueberries.
Kind of like getting back to nature, like going on a camping trip, but somewhat different.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's kind of experiential agriculture. That
Yes.
I've went to Costas and Axtalls and Amott's, and that's what they're doing too. And because in this day and age, less than 2% of the people farm, and we need to introduce our younger people to what farming and agriculture is. They have to know where that milk comes from a cow and not the store. And the same thing, where do blueberries come from? Most kids don't have a clue that the real. Is it growing a bush? Is it a vine? Is it a tree? Who knows? So it's also educational.
It is.
And I think anything that fosters, citizenship and social development after working in a high school for 29 years is good. Of course, I shouldn't brag that it took me 29 years to get out of high school. but okay, well, we're now gonna. Can you have anything else to add or?
Well, when you speak of the education component, I would add that all of our children were in 4-H in Washington County. And so when we started this blueberry field, we started it as a family operation. We had 3 children that were home to help us, and they learned about, first of all, hard work and the process of growing fruit and vegetables, but especially blueberries. And I think the education component has been really important for them.
Well, I've had several 4-H programs. That's one of the reasons I started this, is because the only kids you hear about are the kids that are the football stars, or the ones that rob a liquor store or steal a car, or both. And there's so many good kids doing good things. I've had
Yes.
Civil Air Patrol, I've had Boy Scouts, and I've had the 4-Hers on, and they're wonderful for citizen development. And now off camera, we're going to be sampling. They missed the sampling of the blueberries, but that's okay. They just handed us a few blueberries, a box, and we sampled them. Now if we can go to the scan converter, I will give you the virtual tour so you can see what the facilities of life, control room. If we can go to that. There we go. Okay, there is the first one. That's the sign you would see. Okay, come on. There is the driveway, going up the driveway. And there is the actual entrance, as you can see, to the blueberry field. And there is a picture of the blueberry field, and that blue tent down there is where you get your picking bucket. The other stack of buckets is, in fact, what you sit on. And there are some of the signs of the different types of blueberries and the directions. And there is the area that you can sit under, and a picnic table. You could actually take a sandwich and bring a lunch if you so desired. Okay, there is a blueberry bush, just one type. If you look closely, you can see a few blueberries on there. Now here is another one you can see. That is a bush that is just full of big, ripe, juicy blueberries. And I believe there's another overview, and that is it. So come back to me. And now what we're going to be doing is we have the city council meeting from May. Very interesting discussion. We're shifting gears rather rapidly, and we'll have more discussion on this. And do we know if the control room is ready? Oh, we're not ready yet for this?
Larry, one of the things that I was thinking about when I was listening to the interview about the blueberry fields is, as a child, I went out into the field. My mom would haul us out there, and we would find wild blueberries and pick them. And we would bring little stools to sit on to pick those blueberries. And I really liked the blueberries a lot, except for one thing, and that was the mosquitoes.
Oh, the mosquitoes can be very bad. When I was a young man, I can remember my grandmother giving us lard pails, or little tin lard pails, and we'd go out and we'd pick the blueberries. Of course, they're much smaller, the wild blueberries, than these.
Absolutely.
These are up to 1/2 inch in diameter, and they're just very delicious. And I did notice a difference in the taste of the different types. Okay, we're ready with our video clip, so let's watch this and we can talk on the other side.
Okay.
This was a while ago. I still don't, and I said this before, I mean, we could put it there, and it wouldn't be a bad location. I just don't think it's the best location. I was also told that moving it was easy. Moving it's $2,600, and it's not easy. I mean, pulling out of the ground is easy, but you gotta lay it down, you gotta move it, so it's $2,600. Even the installation guy said, make sure where you want to put it. And so looking at the sight lines and everything else that's here, and looking at the map of Grant that I have, I think, in my opinion, I think we get better coverage if we dropped a siren down by 12, and I think that siren could reach all the way up to 96. And if we went up farther, up on, farther up off of Jamica, or changes names about 5 times, but up on that straightaway up there, along the either a little east or west of where the power lines go through, I think, because it's kind of a triangle. I mean, Grant's kind of a triangle. We widen out on the top, and I think with 3 sirens, we could catch all of Grant. And, so based on the recommendation of this gentleman, and the fact that I have nothing really no study, nothing where to put it, and I really don't want to move it again. I would just ask that we, give it to the planner and let him do some aerials and come up with a better place to put it. I mean, we still have to, do we have to do some publishing on the ordinance and everything before? Okay, so it's gonna take a little while anyway for us to be able to put it up anyway. I heard the sirens it's 2 weeks out for shipment, so.
And I know the planning commission, they did talk about, the poll is so many
Right.
days out. I don't recall what the dates were on.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to see the council reconsider and look at that, because all I had, and I said it last time, where we're gonna put is basically because Larry said so. And that's the only thing I have. And to me, I'd rather have something a little bit more concrete. Bob?
Okay, let's get something. First of all, Mr. Hornby, you shouldn't go by those photos that you looked at, because those trees are not there anymore. I would suggest going to the Washington County Surveyor's Office. They have an actual photo that is really recent, and I wish I could get one from them. I went down there, and I pulled the survey, or where the easements are on my property. I also looked at the Washington County site, where they have all the sirens. Now, your suggestion of putting it down by 12, that's a good location, except there's a ton of them down there. When we had the emergency runoff here last Thursday, I could not hear the ones from Montemedi, and I could barely hear the ones from Stillwater, and that was only when Larry called me and asked me if I could hear them. So you guys didn't hear them at all, unless you were...
There we go. That is the meeting when they're talking about putting the site in, and I believe, Larry, you're the one that has suggested, and you went down, and didn't you even put a post in to where it was supposed to be?
Loren, I took a little time when I presented the tornado siren package to bring it to our city to start with. I took the time to start with the Emergency Operations Center with Washington County. I went down to the surveyors, picked the highest elevation in our city where we felt it would have the best spot. Unfortunately, evidently, it was a little too close to Tom Carr's house. I did put a post in the ground to say where it should be. He didn't want to put it where we staked it. He got involved, and for some reason, between him and Jeff Huber stopping while was installing it, the thing got placed in the state right-of-way.
Well, I have, if we can go to the scan converter, I have pictures of that, of where, now there is if you notice that the stake on the right, that is the property corner of Mr. Engelhard. Okay, they put the pole to the left. That's 4 foot the wrong direction. It's in the state right-of-way. Okay.
Now, Loren, wasn't there already a resolution that was passed with regard to where the siren would be located?
It was, but they, okay, there's it further back. So you can see from that picture, the siren pole should have went in front of that hedge. Mm-hmm. And let's go further back yet. So you see that they now have it on the state right-of-way. And what did Tom Carr say he wanted in the right spot because it was going to cost $2,600 to move it? Guess what, folks? Between the collaboration of wonderful Mayor Carr and Jeff Huber, the councilman, we now have a $2,600 mistake that's going to be moved. As I understand, the state will not allow them to keep it there. So they just, of course,
well, now, was the installer told to put it in the current location where it is right now?
Jeff Huber went by several times and okayed that location. As I understand, I have that secondhand information. I was not there, but I have the secondhand information. And the interesting thing is, what the audience may not know, Larry is a electrical contractor that works with the municipalities. So he's very familiar with this. And just because Mr. Carr has his Burger King hat and wants to be King Tom, You know, instead of following the procedures, following where it was supposed to be put, he takes exception to it, bullies his way through, and then we put it in the wrong place.
Well, what I'm trying to understand, Loren, is that I understood that it had been passed by the council to indeed go forward to have the siren. And then the location, was that location also discussed at that same time when the siren was approved?
It was.
And was it on a map and that they knew where it was sited with regard to the location?
Diane, if I could interrupt you, I did properly come out and put a post in the ground where the siren should be sited.
Right.
The reason I put that post in the ground is so that we could call Go for One and get proper locates.
Which makes sense.
That hole is still in the ground and would not have been in the state right of way. I used common sense if you're allowed to do that anymore, but I got the setback from the from our city streets and from the highway, located the pin, and if you ask our city engineer, he asked how close did I come, and I said we used common sense. Ready Watt, the installer, asked me to site it. The mayor, as you can hear him say, he says, why are we putting it there? Because Larry said so. So he made sure we moved the pole just 6 feet from where the location from where I had it done. Now somebody has to pay to have that pole moved.
And what why I'm asking these questions is that because if when that resolution was passed by the council, and if that resolution contemplated where that location was going to be, because there was a map that was presented at the time the resolution was passed, that resolution was passed with the understanding of where it was going to be sited. The issue then becomes, how did it deviate from what the council voted on by majority vote? And so if there was going to be a change in that site of that siren, then, and it's different from what was voted on by the council by majority vote, whatever that vote was, then by necessity, under Robert's Rules of Order and just the way that it operates with municipal governments, is that you would have to raise that as a motion at a council meeting. It would have to be voted on to change that location, and then it would be properly cited.
Well, that's operating on the assumption that you're following Robert's Rules of Order and using proper procedure. That's
I know,
the only flaw in that.
but on the other hand, though, if the council passed a resolution that said where it was going to be located, that is the determination of the council. Whether or not it was a unanimous vote or not, all it has to be is a majority in this simple case.
Well,
and there you go.
If I may, Ready Watt, and I talked to Bob, the installer over there, and he did say a council member in a white Tahoe had come and talked to him twice while setting the pole, and now we have a pole that's in the state right away, and they are not issuing a permit to leave that siren be.
Okay, I hate to cut it off, but we have so much to cover today that we have to go on. Now we're going to go to the June PC meeting, so if they could play that,
and
please.
And PC means Planning Commission?
Planning Commission.
Okay, very good. Let's take a
about
look.
A sharp curve and off to the right, and I believe that's 66th Street. And I went all the way to the end and was dumped behind looked like a brand new arena that was on private property back there.
You don't know who the resident is there?
No, I just saw where it was dumped. I didn't follow that up. That's where it went.
No, that would be a.
Okay, what they're talking about is there's a huge pile of dirt on the elementary school site for Montemedi, and what happened is they were supposed to leave it there. The only way it could be moved is they had a conditional use permit. However, the contractors obviously trucked about, what would you say, Larry, 1,000 yards, 5,000 yards? A huge pile. It was a mountain of dirt. Instead of installing the berm back where the residents wanted it, and this was not, as far as I know, was it tested? Do we know what the soil was? In the conditional use permit, it was not to be removed from the site. Here they trucked it probably a mile and a half away and used it for fill in someone else's land. Now, that's against the conditional use permit. There's no testing done, and this will come out again. Remember, this was a VRAP situation was a former Superfund site and it was mitigated. And so it was a former waste site of Bel Air Sanitation. And so already there's a violation right there. The fox isn't guarding the hen house, so we're going from there. I don't know if you have another comment. We have 2 more segments from the same PC meeting talking about the lack of testing.
Now, who was doing the hauling?
The general contractor for,
Well, Miller Excavating and Raleigh Trucking were hired. I believe the dirt, rather than returned from the original CUP, where they took the berm out originally to put in the ball fields.
But they were hired by the school district?
No, I believe the school district sold the dirt off the property and moved it on.
they say, control room says we have the second video clip.
Okay, let's take a look.
Department of Labor and Industries sent out a memo in March 2011 that said that directional drilling is not an option in municipal. It is if it's done in the easements, public utility, right of ways, but it says because it is being done inside of their own boundaries that they do not allow directional drilling for sewer and or water. They also state in that same memo that if they're going through a hazardous or a waste site, that they cannot bring fill back in and put it back in. Now, that's the memo that I read. And I assume that's been addressed at one point. I know the option of directional drilling means you will never see what's under the ground or what they went through, because directional drilling doesn't tell you what's underneath there. And that's why the state does not allow that. Now, if they somehow they've skirted it, do you think that was a wise decision for our city to give up the inspections to the state rather than our own inspector, which was more than qualified? Jack Kramer has done schools in North Branch, he's done hospitals. We gave up all our control. And one of the questions I'd like to ask you, part of our conditional use permit said that at least twice a year they would test all the holding ponds and the results. Have you seen that they've done any testing of these ponds, or have you read any results?
Starting with that one first, no, we have not received any testing yet.
And 2 of them should have been done.
And as part of what I guess I would expect anyway, that we would receive that testing before
They started?
before they allow school to start. So during construction, there are temporary holding ponds that will then get filled in. A number of different, during construction, grading is happening in a lot of different ways. So to ask them to come out with the testing requirements for a pond during construction, I don't know that was the intent, but we can definitely ask for something like that.
I guess I go back to is we should have been monitoring that before they even started for that 1 year period, so that we knew what was in the ponds before they even started the construction. Now we have no baseline to see what they have done and changed. See, I think we've got the fox guarding the chicken coop.
And what we would test with that, with the test, what they would show is whether they're comparable to the standard stormwater that you'd expect in any pond, not necessarily a baseline of where that water was to begin with. So we would compare it against any other stormwater pond in the area, and then address it if it needed to be addressed.
Mr. Olson, how many site visits have you made so far?
Probably one every week to every other week.
Okay, so you've been out there 10 times?
Yeah, probably eight to 10 times.
Now, the permits that are actually, that the city holds is the grading permit, and is there any other permit besides the CUP? Is there any other permits that the city holds? It's just the grading permit.
The CUP and the building inspection with the building itself, so.
I thought the building was with the state too, but the building is
Correct,
with-
no, you are correct, the building is with the state, so, and the utility inspection, so we do have the CUP and we have the grading permit.
And then, I guess, you, with your weekly visit or every other week visit, that's kind of been the tempo that the city council desired for?
We didn't strictly discuss a schedule to be out on site. It was more engineer discretion of what we felt was was adequate. We would ramp that up if we felt there were issues going on, or the other way around. And depending on the construction, the tempo of the construction as well. If there's a lot of equipment moving, material in a certain area, we would obviously look at that area a little bit closer than a different area.
Have you seen any tests from the fill that, have they tested any of the fill that they've moved on site, and you've seen the results of any of those tests?
Well, what comes out is the only testing they've done is for compaction to make sure that it's sound for the footings. And that's real interesting. And I know we can't get a close-up here, but here is a letter from Labor and Industry that warns them about what they can and can't do. And Larry, if you would be kind enough to cover that for me, because you're much more familiar.
Well, Loren, if I could, in line item number 2, they say that the following are not listed or approved materials or installation methods for the stated purpose in the Minnesota Code. Then it talks about directional boring for sewer or water pipes. If you go out there currently, the pipe that's sitting on the ground is because they're going to directional drill through there rather than open cut. The other problem is it says any water service regulated by Minnesota Plumbing Code may not pass through contaminated soils. A horizontal separation of 10 feet must be maintained between the water line and the outer limit of existing municipal waste dump. Removal of contaminated soil and backfilling with soil or fill soil is not permissible alternative. So right now,
And so in other words, they're supposed to use clean soil when they're doing their backfill.
no, that's not even permitted going through a waste site. You just plain can't go through one, but somehow we're going to install it through a waste site, and that is what has, as you will see later on, piqued the interest of activist Erin Brockovich.
Interesting. Well, and when they were talking about the number of times that the site was inspected, I know, for instance, in Maplewood, when we would increase the inspection frequency, oftentimes it had to do with erosion that was occurring on the site. And that, of course, has an impact on your stormwater runoff. And that would also, of course, I'm sure erosion and stormwater runoff is a big concern at this site as well.
Well, there's a lot of concerns. In this next video clip, we're going to see another set of concerns that come up. So if control room could run that, please.
Other questions from the commission here? I see Mr. Engelhardt would like to make a statement. Mr. Engelhardt?
Thank you. I was just wondering, I had heard about a tank being taken out, and now tonight I heard about a second tank being taken out. Who tests that to see if there's any contaminants in that? And then do we get notified if it's okay, or there were contaminants in there? Is there any point in time that we're told that there was a contaminant in that tanks, but here's how we got rid of it? That's my first question. And then secondly, is there any way that a person such as myself can get copies of the CUPs? Because I've been hearing these stories about different things all the time, and I'd like to sit down and read the CUP myself and see what this school is obligated to do under our directions.
Well, that was very interesting. I had went by the site and I saw one of the tanks and it appeared to be a rusty 500-gallon underground tank. Now, I didn't have my camera with me and I was short on time. I wish I would have gotten a picture of it. But, that's a whole other issue. They've discovered some things that weren't supposed to be there but were.
Actually, Loren, this is the second tank that they have discovered was out there that they were unaware of, that they have dug up. And we don't know if that's been tested. So far, the only testing has been done, like you said, for compaction to make sure the school is sitting on good footing, which I find ironic because the other elementary school they say we're replacing because it was put on a wetland. And so now they seem to be more, and if you understood Bel Air sanitation, the only reason they didn't do as much dumping exactly where the school is setting, because every time they drove down there, their trucks got stuck because if you look at the high school, it's all down grade where they're setting the school, the very lowest part of their land. And Bel Air Sanitation, when we ran a dump, wouldn't use that piece of property because it was a wetland. So now we're replacing an elementary school from wetland to another one. And the only testing that is being done according to our engineer, is for compaction. It has nothing to do with the environment or the fact that we're going through a lust site, a leaky underground storage tank system, a Bel Air Superfund site, and once again, this is what's piqued up the concern of Erin Brockovich.
Yes, that's what
And-
I was just going to say. Erin Brockovich, we've been in contact with her. We told her our story, and she was having a town hall meeting in Fridley, because in Fridley there are 6 Superfund sites within a mile of each other. Okay? And the sad thing about this, if no one knows they're on a Superfund site, they'll many times ignore symptoms. And one of the things she said, and I didn't get this clip in, you have to take care of your health. And for cancer, the most important thing is early detection. If you have this little anomaly and you don't think of that little green bump in the middle of your forehead, obviously I'm kidding, but you know, that is odd, you're going to have to monitor your health much more greatly, and some of these stories will come out in the next thing. So we're going to roll the next video, and this is...
And Loren, if I could just real quick, because the citizen in that clip also, though, was raising the concern of how can he go about getting a copy of that CUP. And certainly there's an easy way that citizens are entitled to get something such as this, because it's part of the Data Practices Act under Minnesota Chapter 13, and they can submit their request in writing to the responsible authority for whatever governing body that they're trying to get information from, and then they can get that information and they're entitled to it under state law.
Loren, and I know we want to move on, but on Diane's deal, just quickly, you talk about trying to get the information through a
Yes.
Data Practice Act. Both Loren and myself have requested a copy of the spec book from our city, and as Planning Commission members, we can't even get a copy of the
And
the
of course,
spec book.
that's just wrong, because under the Data Practices Act, I don't know of any exception that would fall under.
No, but as Planning Commission, I feel
Well, the
as a
interesting
Planning
thing-
Commission, maybe we have to go through the Planning or the Data Practice Act to get our information.
I can
Well,
tell
one
you
of
that
the-
there were a few times when I was mayor that I had to use the Data Practices Act in order to get the information I needed.
Well,
So,
the interesting
can
thing
happen.
about that is they gave me a spec book, and I repeatedly said, this is the wrong book, folks. The book that I wanted was the one that had the 3 borings that they didn't include, and the engineer very snidely said, well, we didn't want to clutter the book with those 3 test borings. The book, folks, was 1.5 inches thick. They're hiding it from us, basically. They don't want me to have the information. And Landmark, which converted the property, did the VRAP program. They essentially, one of the things they did is they make property marketable. This was a big mistake. We've been going down the wrong path on this one. But let's start with the next
Roll.
video is going to roll.
To me earlier today.
Oh,
He said you're
yeah.
going to be in Utah.
How'd he get Utah?
I don't know.
You
We
talked
thought
to
that
Dave
we go-
Cass?
Yeah.
No, I was,
her about the lot we're almost
I was in
And you I kind of
Milwaukee and now.
sent you when I said that Roger Goodell came into the Minnesota. We got an NFL stadium. You wrote
Yep,
back.
right, yes.
This is Larry. I'm the same one.
Okay.
There's a school on the dump site. That's where they are placing the school. That's the existing one. That's the new school site. But what I've got is Amy Klobuchar has agreed to meet with you. I couldn't get Michelle Bachmann to meet with you. Senator Klobuchar is willing to talk. I've got a bill that got introduced on the state level with Robert Detmer, and he's going to introduce a state bill to stop you from putting a school on the dump site. So,
Yeah, I don't know why we do that.
well, so I'm getting it done at the state level. And Amy Klobuchar said she'd talk to you on the other.
Okay, good.
Part of the deal, and David said, like I said, you'd be here. Here's the House bill. We got a companion bill. It's a letter, like she said, the neighbors. This lady said that she moved on a Superfund site in White Bear. Within 2 years, they said it was safe at the PCA. She developed cancer with a set of twins and it attached to the fetuses. She had to abort her pregnancy and go through 8 months of chemotherapy.
Is that here in Fridley?
No, this is over in White Bear. It was over in White Bear Lake. It's a 38% plus cancer rate going over there.
This is where the site is and they want to go to school.
This operated 38 years unregulated. It's the same thing.
it's the same thing. This was an unregulated dump site.
38
years. Yeah, and it's Minnesota Superfund site, Beller Sanitation. Remember you said you couldn't understand how they allowed that and said, here's the sewer and water going in, the school's going up. I've been fighting this for over a year. I got a planning commission. They run for mayor if I have to fight them. And I told him, I wrote back and said, we're going to be tenacious and keep after. Well, no, the senator asked me why I'm not running, and I said because actually, I'm a chick will go for work organization. I said, you are a senator, you spread it around. And he looked at me, he's just, yeah. Yeah, so if you have somebody that's got staff, I can get this to you. But Amy Klobuchar is willing to introduce or talk to get something done on a national level. Michelle Bachman backed off. I don't understand why, because she ran on a pro-life ticket, right? So I guess after the kids are born, they're on their own.
She's out.
Well, I guess that's what we have to do.
There we go. That was the first. And I was the cameraman on that, so I have to take the grief for not a lot of good expertise. I normally am the other side of the camera, so I'm not really familiar with it. But we do have we're going to have the end of that clip also. We have quite a few clips from that. And one of the things she wants to do is educate the public. That's what we're attempting to do, especially when you're dealing with sites, dump sites. And cancer is one of the recurring themes. Like we said, the Centerville Road and 96 dump site in back of Cub there has a 38% cancer rate. I mean, and one of the problems that they have in determining this is people don't stay static. You know, they get cancer, they're going to move on. So, and there's going to be a couple examples later. Say you only have 25 people. Okay.
And one thing, too, I want to just mention, Loren, to help set this up for some of the viewers as well, is that the city of Grant and the site where the school is now going to be built, that is now in the 4th Congressional District. And, you know, yes, at one time it was in Michelle Bachman's district, but now it's actually in Betty McCullum's district. And I understand that the two of you have contacted her office several times and that you really haven't gotten much of a response.
Zero response from my contacts.
And I just want folks to realize that you know, they're in a different congressional district now. They are going to be having different representation. And a reason that I think that this is a very important issue that both of you are on is that my undergraduate background is I have a dual degree in chemistry and biology. I actually worked for the Environmental Protection Agency some time ago. I worked for the University of Minnesota in research and looking at chromosomal defects of people with lymphomas and leukemias. And there is indeed a very distinct link between the types of chemicals that were at this site and cancers. And so it's real. It's real.
Okay, let's go to the next clip and we can see the last part of this conversation.
We got the doors open to Governor Dean's up to the 3rd staff. I've talked to 3 people in there, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. I haven't been able to get to the governor. And that's what I'm trying to do with Michelle Bachman, is set up a meeting with Senator Vanderveer, Bob Detmer, that wrote the state bills, meet with the governor and get them all in one room with him. He's been unwilling to do that so far, but I think we can get to him. If we get it done on a national level, the state doesn't make any difference, does it?
Larry, if it works out.
Hi there. Hi. Hi, Alice.
I can get some state laws written, but I want to get it on the federal. But the PC is not required to install a vapor barrier and venting system under the Wildwood Elementary to prevent potential vapor intrusion.
So we need to get our PCA to strengthen their lives.
No, the PCA does make testing on their own. That's why the new state law, we're getting rewritten with the help of Bob Detmer and Ray Vander. I've met with them. The PCA has no teeth, and they do none of their own testing. So, and their recommendation is that we build a positive ventilation system to prevent vapor intrusion. Why would you build a school that you know you got to prevent vapor intrusion when a mile and a half down the road they own 24
We'll discuss that when I'm in the Senate next year.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go. That further delineates that. And now let me set up for the next piece that's coming along. Erin doesn't work by herself. She has a man by the name of Bob Balcox.
Yes.
And he is a certified, guy has certification in water purification and handling. He's out of Los Angeles, I believe. And he ran a water system for about 24 years, a municipal water system. And so he's very familiar, he's certified, he's very familiar with water quality and what they're doing. And so the next couple of clips we're going to have is he's going to be discussing, for example, why Erin Brockovich is here. And he's also going to be discussing a couple of different things. What is that called again?
Air stripping.
Air stripping. It's a procedure that they use to get toxins out of water and what that does. And so we're going to be seeing that. So the next two clips is going to be him. And Bob is the front man for Erin. He does most of the testing. He does a lot of the research. And one of the other things he'll talk about, investigative work, there's plumes. There's several types of pollution. There's air pollution. There's also gases that move through the soil. They call that a plume. There's also TCEs. Those are types of things, poisons. And they may travel on the top of water. So there's 2 or 3 different aspects to this.
Okay, so let's take a look.
Let's take a look.
Erin, what do you think about what's going on here, and can you help us? Erin bounced it to me at about the same time I caught one of the articles referring to a meeting that Jason had and said, boy, it would really be great if Erin would come in. And I saw that on Fridley Patch, so it was something back and written. And so I sent a Facebook, just a private little message to Jason, said, I'll talk to Erin, and about 10 minutes later, Erin sent me an email saying, hey, this guy Jason from Fridley had contacted me. So that's sort of how we got involved. There's a lot of people out there that are speculating as to why we're here. What are we looking for? Are we here to sideswipe somebody in government or embarrass somebody? And no. What this meeting's about is this is what we call our initial investigation, sort of our kickoff meeting. This is your meeting, this is not our meeting. We didn't come here to talk about us or where we've been or where we're going. What we're talking about is what you're experiencing. The initial report came out,
There we go. That is just basically, he's doing the setup, what they're talking about, what they do. Later on they'll talk about they have to determine the actual extent of and they call it the plume, how far the pollution contends. Now there were 6 Superfund sites within 1 mile in Fridley. And there's all types of cancers. And he then now the next clip that we're going to show, that Bob is going to talk to us about air stripping and the effect of that. So let's
roll far greater, because that's where they dumped it. It's migrated over here, but at the concentrations they're pumping it up, and they're air stripping it. And volatile organic compounds don't like to be in water. You blow them across those little golf ball, wiffle balls that you hit when you practice driving, and the water hits it, the volatiles break off, they go into the air, and best as I can tell, from what's available in the public record, the water experiences air stripping, is how they describe it. The water with lower levels of TCE is then dumped into the sanitary sewer system and allowed to be treated at the sewer treatment plant. That's not legal in other states, and it's certainly not part of, you hear me talk about the Safe Drinking Water Act, it's not part of what's allowed under the Clean Water Act, which EPA is supposed to, regulate under as well. What concerns me, back to that cumulative effect, there's 6 Superfund sites, but they treat them all as individuals because you never want it 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 6, and so they never talk about them all together. What's the FMC one doing? What's the Kurt one doing? What's the Boise Cascade one doing? How do they commingle? What's happened? How are they associated? How are they disassociated? Why are they managed the way that they're managed? Because it's extremely inefficient. If they're air stripping over there, and they don't have off-gas granular activated carbon collection systems, not only did you drink it in your morning coffee, but you were breathing it. Because if they off-gas that, They went straight into your air.
There we go. That's what we're talking about. And they're talking about sprinkling the water from the holding ponds on the school back onto the lacrosse and the soccer fields. Well, where do you think that stuff is going to end up? And we're now, the next segment that we're going to go to, we're actually going to be listening to Erin Brockovich, and we have 2 or 3 segments for her. So let's go directly to that.
I thought I could talk a long time, but Bob beats me. I've been working with Bob for about 11 years, and he does a terrific job in getting out ahead of me to many community meetings. So he kind of explained to you how it got involved, and I have to tell you, it is really communities that are starting to actually make the difference. From Jason getting a hold of me, to the Facebook page that he started, to getting Bob out here ahead of me, it's really making a huge difference. What's happened to me over the past couple of years was when Facebook started, it was kind of restitching people back together. You know, that had graduated from high school and college and hadn't seen each other and moved on and had babies and gone to other countries. And Facebook brought them back together. And a couple of years ago, some girls from a school in Tennessee had contacted me, and there was about 30 of them. And they thought it was interesting once they found each other again on Facebook. They all had cancer, all of them. So they went to Google, and Google didn't have a whole lot of information. So they thought, well, heck, maybe Erin Brockovich does. So we actually started looking at the information, and were able to trace them all back to the same high school, which had never been disclosed. It was built on a top class 1 hazardous waste dump. So a lot of times information doesn't get out there to people, and I think we're in a new era with Twitter and Facebook and internet where we're able to start getting more data to each other. The one thing that I had started doing because of that work, and Bob had mentioned to you the math, is I thought, what is the best thing that I can do to help these people? We certainly don't come in here wanting to beat up on agencies, even though we're certainly frustrated with them. I think sometimes they're frustrated. And in all fairness, while they may know that they have a big Superfund site, it's never been the EPA's job to come back in and see the health effects of a community. You can live on top of a Superfund site and be exposed to chemicals, and we may not see a disease process for 20 years, but nobody's coming back in and monitoring you. And that's one thing that we're really hearing communities screaming out that they want help doing. So part of what I decided to do was, if I could take information from you and turn it into something visual that could help you see and help agencies see what's going on across the country, that's what we started to do. So I created what's called the People's Reporting Registry. And I've gotten into an agreement with Google, who's building it. You know, I know that people hear all the time, or they'll read something in the newspaper, Erin's not a scientist, Erin's not a chemist. And you know what? I'm not. I was raised by an engineer who worked for industry, my father, who worked for Texaco. I've spent 22 years doing this. I've worked with some of the finest experts, scientists, chemists, and doctors. And somewhere things kind of fall into a common sense place for me, that green water and seeing two-headed trout in water and a frog that's turned into hermaphrodite, and community after community after community reporting that something's wrong, maybe something's wrong. And maybe it's time to take a look at it. And maybe we don't understand it because we can't see it. You can't see what's happening.
There we go. That's what she's talking about. And I think you had a comment about the high school thing in the 20 years later.
These schools, and this is unfortunately like in Wildwood, many of the parents that are sending their young children to school now didn't live in the community. They're not aware that Bel Air was a dump site, so they're not aware. And unfortunately, they're moving the preschool up to this site. So now these preschool kids and elementary school kids that are going to go to the new site won't have to wait for their 20-year class reunion. They may be talking about the cancer cluster that they're experiencing at their graduation party.
And you know, she brings up this good point that the EPA, that they do not look at the monitoring of health effects long term. And maybe that's something that should be expanded because it is a national issue.
Oh, I agree with you. Let's go to the next clip. We're rushing to get these all in.
Stop our politics and start working together and finding out what is happening to these communities. We expect our children to clean up their bedrooms. I think it's time that we expect of ourselves to clean up our mess and begin to take a look at what we've done and what might be happening to the people. Because nobody's coming back in to tell you. How many of you knew you had 6 Superfund sites? Wow.
There we go. They
Wow.
weren't informed. Information is important, especially in the treating of cancer. This is really important, and I think the future implications, and they're gung-ho to build that school, but again, we don't want our kids to glow in the dark. I'm sorry. Children are our future. And
Okay.
we're going to be going to the next clip. One of the things we attempted to fight last year, they're building an elementary school at a former Superfund site out in the city of Grant. It's the Montemite Schools, and they ran over the top of us, and we're trying to get some things done. We've been lobbying at the state of Minnesota. Down at the legislature, we currently have a bill that will, in the future, prohibit any schools being built on a current or former dump site. Okay, there we go.
So the cameraman did get to speak.
Yes, I finally did. But obviously a cameraman's not my calling in life, not my level of expertise. But I think that's very important. I think we have the next clip ready to go.
Okay, well, let's take a look.
They respond to that. A lot of work.
Yeah, it's sad that you have to use your efforts on something like that because it's pathetic to consider redevelopment of any former industrial site into a school, or those types of facilities.
Easy to watch the kids because they'll glow in the dark at night.
It's just one of those things. It's called just say no because it's one of those types of things. Is that there's no amount of science that's going to give me personally the security to put my kids in that school. So just don't. There's enough places you can do it elsewhere. Okay, we're going to go to questions. Okay, yeah, well, we're not on questions yet, so we'll start with you. Okay, we're fired off for questions, and they go for Jason, me, Erin, and anybody that thinks that they might be able to answer them.
Right, my name is Larry Lanu, and I'm also on the Planning Commission for the City of Grant. And I want you to understand that individually, you do have a voice. I've gone down to the state, fought with them for quite a while to prohibit siting the school and dump. Currently, they are building it. They are putting it, they're ignoring, the school district is, they'll run right over you. But we do have elected officials that listen. Representative Bob Detmer has introduced a House file to prohibit siting schools on the dump. Senator Ray Vandiver has written a companion bill along with that, which is coming if you get reelected next this November. But my big deal that I'd like to do is say that I got one email from Erin Brockovich earlier this year. I've been fighting for a year or better and been thrown out of many council members by the Sheriff's Department for speaking up. But if you do stand there and fight long enough, they will listen. They will understand. I talked to Jason on the phone earlier, and he said it's amazing. The Governor Dayton had me on a conference call with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And one of the first questions they asked me is, what is Erin Brockovich's interest in the Matamidi School District? And I said, it's really simple. She's not here for financial gain. She would rather be here to be recognized for preventing an illness rather than allowing it. And I want her to be commended for that effort. And I don't want to steal your thunder because I know we're here in Fridley and we're talking about it, but they are currently building on it. Amy Klobuchar has agreed to listen and talk to him. Representative Vandiver has, and Senator Vandiver has. Currently, Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann refused the offer. So it makes a difference. Get out there, vote, talk to your representative, and believe what they stand for. You have a voice. Individually, you do. I didn't think I did. I wired sewer lift stations. I make the sewage go uphill for a living. Not a glamorous job. But you know what? They're listening to me at the state capitol and asking my interest. He said, Ray Vander, why aren't you running for Senate? I said, sir, I'm going to be in your neighborhood wiring sewer lift stations soon. You guys are more qualified to spread it around. But they are listening to me. They're hearing. So thank you for your efforts, Erin. Thank you.
One more video clip, and then we'll conclude it. I know this has been a very fast-paced show, so let's see if we can go to the next video clip and get that in so we get it all covered.
And that's our drawing of it, right? Right. Did you realize out of this whole thing, because when he talked about, spraying water through the air and getting rid of some of the chemicals, well, here's exactly what they will not accept. The Rice Creek watershed will not, and it's a Rice Creek watershed, same Rice Creek that they're talking about works its way down here. Right. They will not accept any of the contaminated water here, so they're making them put holding ponds down here. You know what they're making them do with the holding ponds?
Now what?
We don't have it now. Right now, there are cross fields out here and ball fields, and so they're making them irrigate the water with the holding pond on top of the playing field to get rid of it. Same thing you do at a wastewater treatment plant. And you know that all they're going to do is
That would probably
Collect
clearly be
separate-
illegal in the state of California. I would think you'd have some laws.
Oh, you think the governor hasn't been told about
Yeah,
this?
I would
I
think
mean,
we
and
had some
like I
laws about
said, if you get a chance to, Amy Klobuchar is willing
Yes,
to,
I'm going to contact her.
and like I said,
I'm going to contact her.
it's like
It's a great
Michelle
idea.
Bachmann said, she ran on a pro-life ticket,
Uh-huh.
so evidently it's okay to protect them before they're born, but once you hit the ground, you're on your own. I don't know. Why wouldn't she, be...
I was kind of glad that you said that.
Before you guys
in
go
there
down the
because there's a lot of
political thing,
people
can I take a
who-
photo?
Yeah, I know. I'm very much.
There we go. And I think that we bring out a lot of good points in that. Again, awareness is an issue. We have to know about these sites. We have to take care of them. The other thing that's in that bill, that 2987, I believe it is,
Yes.
is the schools, if they're built at a dump site, are going to have to notify parents. So that's really important. We'd like to see it not happen. To me, it makes no sense at all. And I'm not against schools. I was an educator for 29 years. We're talking about our future. Our children are our future. And how you can even think about putting them in this type of a site, it totally is beyond the...
And another reason why this notice provision I think is very important that's being included is that in the Mahtomedi School District, there's a high percentage of students that are coming from other communities. And then this way, if you're not living in the community, you know what's going on with the school you're sending your child to.
That's true.
Diane, that's a great point. In fact, I don't think most people know that we have a 29% open enrollment in Mahtomedi right now.
Right.
Our neighboring districts are Stillwater at 3% and White Bear at 4%, state average is at 4%. So those people would have never been aware of it.
That's
so
right.
the best part for prevention is actually not to put these people
Not to
at
do
risk
it.
to start with.
That's right. Don't do it at all, but if you do it, you better tell folks.
So they can watch for any anomalies and health problems. And the cure for cancer, the best thing is early warning and detection. If all of a sudden you're at stage 4, it's too late. And we've seen that before. Well, I see we're down to 1 minute left. I want to thank my guests, Larry Lanou and Diana Longry, for assisting me with this. And I know you didn't get a chance to talk much because I probably packed too much in. Like I said, from Blueberries to Erin Brockovich to tornado sirens and toxic waste sites, we covered a lot of ground, but I think it's very important. And we're going to be following up on some of this. Once again, I want to thank my guests. Well, thank you. We'll keep watching the All Around Grant Show, and we'll show you what's happening, not just what's in Grant, but all around Grant.
All right, Loren, if I could, I want also to put in a plug for Erin Brockovich because her interest in our school has no monetary gain. It is simply she'd rather be recognized for preventing an illness rather than allowing one to happen. So, folks, be aware. Talk to your neighbors. Inform them.
Well, thank you very much, Loren, for inviting us on the program. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you.